Event Horizon.
Event Horizon. Now, weirdly, again, don't ask me why. I was watching something the other day. I can't think what it was. Is it a modern day sci-fi film? And they talk about using hyperspace, and they said we're gonna do the Event Horizon method. And I went,
it's Thor.
I was Thor. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, when they're explaining stuff, and she says, "Have you seen Event Horizon?" It's kind of like that.
Right. So, when did you last watch Event Horizon?
Probably when it came out 25 years ago. And it is literally 25 years ago this came out. So the synopsis for this is a rescue crew investigates a spaceship that disappeared into a black hole and has now returned with someone or something new on board. That kind of, that's okay, isn't it?
That's fine.
From my IMDb, that's what does the job.
I did that thing now, Rob. I'm sure you do it. The big one I did was Highlander the one time, my daughter, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the best film you're ever going to watch. It's great. And I watched it with my 17-year-old son, and as I watched it, I thought to myself, this isn't the best film I've ever watched. Personally, I still love it, because for me, this came out, was in my early 20s. But actually, watching it, we're going through it, my son was like, oh, them effects are a bit dodgy, aren't they? But then he was like, oh, that's good. Oh, the Event Horizon's really well designed. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I like that. So when he's saying things, I think, oh, right, okay. So, because you know what teenagers are like, they're normally sort of like, So the premise is the Event Horizon rocks back up, doesn't it, out of a 7-year missing in action, and our younger actors that we are, Sam Neill, Jolie Richardson, Sean Pertwee, they all rock up.
Yeah, and Sam Neill's like the designer, inventor, engineer, whatever you class him as they invented this Event Horizon spaceship. We can do these sort of open wormholes and do this travelling at great distances.
Lawrence Fishburne,
And the rest of the crew are all a bit sort of annoyed they're having to go on this deep space mission, and they're a little bit sort of disgruntled with Sam Neill's character, and they don't seem to welcome him very warmly. When they get to the Event Horizon, then it's kind of like plays it more sort of like a haunted house sort of thing, doesn't it? Really, when it's just it's like bumps in the night essentially, and weird things start happening.
I watched a making of video after watching this the other week, and it does. And thinking about it, it's true. It is actually designed like a Gothic cathedral, isn't it? And when you look at it, like the med bay, it's got loads of tiles on there. It's like a tiled mausoleum or something, and you think, what a strange way of designing a ship.
There's things where there's like bits of doors and things that got all these spiky bits, and there's like this main chamber, isn't it, where it's got this sort of spinning dome bit, which is meant to be like the engine, the heart of the ship that can do its transporting and opening wormholes. Yeah, it's got all these quite spiky bits, and you're thinking that's not very functional. It's just been designed on purpose to look like that, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah, so and that really. So again, it's like I suppose it's like the film. Well, what's the film where the doctors they die for a little Flatliners? It's kind of like that, where you're shown your own worst nightmares. This was surprisingly shorter than I remembered. It's like an hour and a half. I remember. It
is. It's a film that makes me feel like, and actually, I'm pretty sure there probably is out there. It's just not big enough film to release it. There must be a director's cut of this that would have been longer.
Yeah, there's got to be. There's got to be.
I imagine. Yeah, because when you see when it says directed by Paul Anderson, and before you start thinking, oh, Paul Anderson, the guy who did Magnolia and Licorice Pizza.
No, it's Resident Evil.
It's the other Paul Anderson. It's the Resident Evil Paul Anderson. Paul W.S. Anderson, I think he's credited as now.
But there's a lovely design in all this. So like, when the Event Horizon comes back, it's in clouds of. It's in like a lightning storm, isn't it? There's like a cloud. The ship, it's called the Lewis and Clark, isn't it? Is the ship that they're in that they go to meet the Event Horizon. That's got this kind of aliens.
This stuff reminded me of was. And it's a real blast from the past. Disney's Black Hole.
Yes, yeah.
Which I think is a movie that's ripe for a remake, because they don't seem to remake films that could have been good if they'd been made better. So let's have a second go at making it better. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Yeah.
the sort of crew camaraderie with them sort of ribbing each other and having to go into hyperspace and being woken up for all of that is like a big rip off of Alien.
Oh, very much so.
Far, and it's not even like homaging or inspired by
proper.
or referencing it.
It's
It's just full on rip off of Alien, and I don't think it does it that well. I think the sort of banter and joking and stuff between the actors feels forced and fake. I don't buy that these are actually spending any time with each other.
It's got that kind of low budget feel in a big budget film, if that makes any sense. Like, you can see some of the sets. More so, looks like all the money was spent on the Event Horizon, but less money spent on the Lewis and Clark.
I think, like the other thing that sort of people on a mission sort of bickering with each other, other than Alien, is the thing, John Carpenter's thing, that does it really well. And so you've got very different personalities amongst the sort of crew, but you kind of believe that they would be winding each other up, and it felt a bit more believable. I didn't buy this at all. I'd completely forgotten, other than Sam Neill. I remembered Sam Neill being in it. I'd forgotten about all these other people. I'd completely forgot about Jason Isaacs in it.
Yeah.
And Sean Pertwee, who is the best one in this, personally.
Yeah,
I think
I like him a lot.
And Jolie Richardson, Lawrence Fishburne. You got a really good cast. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne just seems to be doing the grumpy, shouty captain thing, which he does well. Which he does well.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of other, 3 dimensions to his character at all. The lady there's one lady who gets quite hysterical all the time.
She's the medic, isn't she?
Yeah, she was just kind of annoying. She did this thing where, like in horror films, when you see a vision of something, and in her case, it's like a vision of a child back on Earth, or someone else sees visions of their dead wife, or these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And they know it can't be their kid running around in the spaceship, yet they still go chasing after them. and that annoyed the hell out of me.
It's proper haunted house tropes, isn't it? It's all let's turn off my comms or something, and it's like, I'm gonna wander off here doing this and that.
But I didn't buy Sean Pertwee out of all that cast though. At the most, he just seemed genuinely. Perhaps he didn't enjoy making the film, so I don't know. But he just seemed generally annoyed with people all the time and proper grumpy, and I sort of bought him. Sam Neill, the problem with Sam Neill, it does, if I ever criticise The Shining, though I do love The Shining, but one of the things I always have a problem with The Shining is you get the sense at the start that Jack Nicholson's not quite right straight away, because he's got that sort of Jack Nicholson slightly mad eyes about it.
Yeah, look at him. So
instead of been like a slow descent into hell and him slowly going mad, it feels like you're a bit unhinged at the start.
Do you know
Sam Neill, straight away, I was just thinking, you're going to be in trouble.
It's got one of my favourite film tropes, and I know it because not everyone are like space nerds like us. But so let's say to Sam Neill, so what is it with the Event Horizon? He says, well, we opened a singularity, which did, and they say, come on, no, tell us in English. And you think, you lot are space, you like space explorers. You'll know what this stuff is. I get it. It's just for the audience.
Yeah, it's me saying something about a car to some mechanics and them going, what? Just say it in English. Pedal, make car go.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought that as well. It seems a bit odd that they just seem to be a bit sort of.
The film's
what
played.
That does, which.
Sorry, go on, Rod.
Sorry. I was going to say what it does there. It's doing that thing which Alien did. Instead of them acting like clever scientist astronauts, it's that idea of having these guys like space travelers just more of an everyday thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like guys on an oil rig together, isn't it? They're there just to do a job. It's not like they're great explorers into the unknown. They're just guys doing a job that you feel isn't particularly well paid. So that's where it gets. They're
just like whatever.
They're just working. They're just like, we've got to go to this ship. Okay, can we just do it and then go home then? And then I'll get paid. They're not interested in the exploring.
There's a couple of scenes that I think don't work that well. So obviously it's played straight. It's played serious. So everyone's getting possessed, aren't they? Kind of, or having visions of the ship that's haunting them. And then you've got Mouse out of the Matrix who kind of gets himself in the airlock, and I think that's pretty good, and he's doing that. Then you got the guy who's like the sassy talking guy, and he's out on the ship and something happens and he gets blown off the edge of the ship, and he's on like he says, I'm just going to cut the edge of my suit and do like a Superman thing, and you think that's played for laughs where he doesn't really need to be.
He's a bit jarring actually, the way he plays everything.
He's sort of
It
like
seems a bit.
salty, jokey, comic relief
Yeah.
where you don't really need it in this film. But saying all this, I still love this film. It had a nice, again, lots and lots of nostalgia for me. I saw it at the cinema. I remember it being a good horror at the cinema. Is it that scary nowadays? Not really.
Well, the only thing is quite effective is there's a bit where they get the video footage of what happened to the previous crew. They turn up at the event horizon, everyone's gone, and the implication is this is, instead of like traveling to the other side of the universe and back, it's gone to some other dimension, or they do say hell.
Hell, they say hell, don't they? Yeah.
Hell and back. And what's going on the video looks horrendous. Like everyone's just like ripping each other apart. It looks quite gory. And there's a bit of a montage of unpleasantness, isn't there? A bit later on, you see little flashes of people being peeled, and some of that stuff made me think a bit Clive Barkerish, really. People being hung up on hooks and being torn apart and stuff like that, rather than just solely killed. You know, that they're not just stabbed to death; they've got their eyes peeled out and all this horrible
proper
stuff.
torture, isn't it? To spoil the ending of a 25-year-old film. I always thought the ending to this was fairly obvious, but again, watching one of these discussions of it, well, what are your thoughts on the very last couple of scenes?
I can't even remember what they were.
So they get, so spoilers for anyone that hasn't watched Event Horizon. They get back to Earth, or the rescue crew comes up, gets them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're safe now." And then the door's shut, and for me, they're like, "Oh, why's the door shut?" And I'm like, well, obviously the ship is still there. The ship's still evil, and it's possessing them and it's catching them. Because there's a few sort of like fake outs again. Oh, you've woken up. Oh no, now you have really woken up.
Yeah, because who's someone does survive at the end, don't they?
Doesn't Jolly Richardson survive? And the guy's mouse.
I don't know actually. I'm not thinking about it now. I wasn't sure I necessarily interpreted as that more of a case of that. The only person that's, physically survived that's still alive hasn't really survived because they're basically going to be messed up by this for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
I interpreted it more as that, but I guess I might be wrong.
The more obvious one is just basically
evil spread, hasn't it?
Yeah, the door's shut, and I always thought it was like, oh, the ship is evil, and now it's caught two more people in the rescue crew.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I didn't take it like that. I just thought that that's the end of the story, but the survivors have just got PTSD, whatever, just because of the horrible things they've gone through.
True.
I thought it was a bit ropey, to be honest. I think the problem is there's some interesting bits in there. Like I say, some more that the horror in this idea that it could where's it been and what's it brought back. But I don't think it builds dread effectively. I think it's far too obvious what's going to happen to all the different characters. They're all going to get knocked off, and it just reminded me of the things like The Thing. That it's essentially like a haunted house movie. So it's a bit like The Shining, but in space. The alien stuff is too shameless. Good production design in it, but
like you said a minute ago, a good remake of this nowadays could probably do a good, a nice, good, solid horror, space horror.
I think it just needed more sense of dread. I think the way that some of the characters were sort of behaving when something bad happened. Some of them were a little bit hysterical, and it's just like they've never had a dangerous situation in their life, but they're like deep space explorers, so surely there must have been in situations of risk before. And they just start believing everything they see, and I suppose that's the point, is the stuff's meant to be getting their heads. But
true.
I found some of the characters' choices a bit annoying, and I kind of didn't really care that they got killed. And if you have got annoying, that horror trope thing, if you do have annoying characters, you just want to see them getting killed in some inventive ways, don't you?
Yeah. It's...
So if you are going to have these characters annoying, that's fine, but to be a bit more fun in, that type of movie where you're just going full on.
And I'm afraid some of the effects do look a bit old now. There's a guy on fire, isn't there, which is definitely looking a bit aged. Yeah, not
too bad. There wasn't anything that I don't remember it feeling particularly jarring. But it's, even the end of Alien, isn't it? It's the bit where it's just like, we've got some explosive thing. I've set a timer, and then you need to get off before this timer's off, and something's gone wrong. I've got to go back, switch that time off. I've got another thing to do. So some of that stuff was just Alien and Aliens as well.
It is.
So out of 10, I would say. What's your scoring for this?
I like this. This is about, again, there's a lot of nostalgia for me. I do like this as a little short horror. 8 for me. 8 Sam Neill overacting sewn up eyes for me.
Yeah, I'd give it 5 sewn up eyes out of 10 for me. A lot lower from me. Yeah.
Cool. Okay then, Rob, should we wrap it up there? We're folks.